Hi there. For this video today, I'm going to talk a little bit about differentiation in the classroom and a little model of how I go about doing that. Usually in my math classrooms, I have multi-age groups with a lot of different ability levels, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about how I try to manage that. In general, this is kind of the philosophy I use, whether or not it's a day-long lesson or a week or a 3 or 6 week unit. Just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to pretend this is like a 3 week unit or thereabout, and we'll just kind of talk through what that may look like. And I just picked a random topic here. Here I have inequalities down here. And so what I'll generally do is I'll say, okay, what are the things I want the students to learn? What is in the skill level or the concept level of inequalities. And so I pick them going from the more simple to the more complex. And when you make a list like this, maybe it's 3, 4, 5, 6 things, whatever it is, um, generally the first couple of those are going to be the most important, the ones that all students really have to get down. And if they don't get those basics down, then they're really not going to be able to do more advanced work. And besides, if they understand those basic things really well, they're going to see those more on exams. They're going to be more relevant and more broad as far as reaching to other subjects goes anyway. So those first couple things are things that we'd really want to focus on. So here, if we look at, we have solving simple equations. That's what I want students to be able to do, and then to be able to represent them in different ways. Solving complex equations, that would be nice, but if students don't understand the stuff in the beginning, they can't really do solving complex equations, doing double inequalities, or doing them with absolute values, which would be much more challenging. But generally, though, here's kind of what happens: is we say, okay, we want to get to all five of these things because it's in the chapter that we have, or it's in our standards. And when we have all of our students together here, I kind of made this chart. So let's say this is a 3 week span. And group A are going to be the students who need the most time and who struggle the most. Maybe their skills are a little bit weaker in math. Maybe they don't have the motivation other students may have, whatever that is. And then B are students who have a little more competency. And then C would be the students who would be your most advanced, who go the quickest through your math. And generally what happens is when we have students all together, we have everybody together, we do solving simple equations, and what happens is that this amount of time, so time is kind of going across from left to right there, the amount of time for A is not really enough, and the amount of time for C is too much. So you're giving this lesson, and A's kind of like, I don't really understand what's going on. I'm getting kind of confused. And C's sitting there kind of like, this is really boring. Could we please move on? And so you feel this tension of like, well, I really need to move on, but I also need to go slower. And so you kind of just average it and make it best for like the kids in the middle. And then you move on to part two. So A is still kind of struggling a little bit now with the second concept because they didn't really get the first. C's still kind of bored a little bit. By the time you get to three, these kids are lost. They don't really know what's going on, and they kind of feel frustrated. C is just starting to feel a little bit challenged right now. And then when you get to part four, pretty much the A kids have given up a lot of times, or they're just like, I just don't know what to do. And so that becomes really challenging for them. And just as bad is that C is just like, okay, this is finally starting to get interesting. And then you stop. You never get to the more exciting thing with the students, where they might really get into it, because you're out of time and you're moving on. And so that's kind of more of a traditional model that's really hard to deal with. But in absence of better things, a lot of us are just stuck with doing that. So I'd like to share a little bit about how I change things a little bit. So at the very beginning, I will give a lesson to the entire group, setting the stage for the work ahead. So whether that's setting the context for a problem, giving the very basic skills they need to get started, not to do all the work, but just like, what are inequalities? Okay, where would they actually be used? Maybe we'll do a couple examples of solving some simple equations just so students get a taste of it. And it's going to be really short because I don't want to bore these kids over here in the C and B group. And I know that A is going to need more time anyway. So I want to give them the background, get them able to get started, to orient them essentially to the work. And then I'm going to get out of their way. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create activities or hands-on work with materials or little projects that take them through all of these different concepts. And so here's how it's going to look in my class. So again, in the very beginning, I give everybody that lesson, and as soon as I'm done with that, the kids in the first group, I'm going to say, okay, so I give the lesson, and I'm going to say, and again, these aren't groups that I make. This is just like how students kind of naturally fall in. And for different topics, kids might be in different groups. For example, students might really get into one idea. They might be really good at graphing, but really bad at solving equations. And so when I give that general lesson, I'm going to say to the students, okay, who needs some help with this like right away starting? And some kids will say, yeah, Mike, I didn't understand anything you just said. I need an additional lesson. So great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give students their work to do. And the yellow is kind of where my time is going to be. So B and C can start this solving simple equation stuff independently. They understood the lesson. They might have had it before. It might be a review for them. And so they don't need me to be there. I'm going to sit down with group A and spend time and reteach the lesson, give them a lot of help, a lot of guidance, probably teach it in a slower way, maybe in a couple of different ways with maybe more materials, whatever. But I'm going to spend my time here as B and C can work independently on this work. So their work for solving simple equations, they might have a lot of different options, but one option is just, hey, if you know how to do it, just do a couple of these problems and then move on. And so you see here that group C, they're going to spend just a little bit of time with it. They might just look at it and say, yeah, I already know how to do this. Can I move on to part 2? Yeah, go move on to part 2. And they can do part 2 independently as well. So they know where the work is in the classroom. They finish one, they turn it in, they do whatever with it, and then they move on to part 2. Meanwhile, I'm just really working to get a solid base of a concept done for group A here. Once that I feel like they can work independently, then I kind of float around and see how everybody else is doing. And so at this point, group B, they might have gotten partway through that material, and now they have some questions. So they're going to need my help with that work. And so that's where I jump in and I kind of give them a lesson, not from the beginning because they were able to get that part, but now they're kind of in the middle. And so I'm going to help them a little bit. And then by that time, group C might be done with number 2. Like they might have already figured this out all on their own, or it might have been a review for them. But now when they come to solving complex equations, they're going to need a little bit of help and guidance. And just a little bit of help because they understand these basic concepts well here in the beginning. And so now this new concept is just a variation on that. So I just need to kind of get them started a little bit there. I think I have a second here to breathe, it looks like, just to kind of observe. And by this time, B is finished up with their part, and now they're on number 2, but they're going to need some help with that. They're going to need some time for me to give them a lesson because that's kind of more new for them. So I'm going to spend time here giving them the initial lesson for the second part, kind of like I did for group A in the beginning. Meanwhile, after that, I keep checking in on group number 1. They may need some help as they work through several times. They may also need some help with their organization and their motivation. So it might be like I might pop in here and say, how are you guys doing? And they're kind of just not really maybe working as efficiently as I would like. And so I might have to say, okay, I want you to, do you know how to do this one problem here? Great. I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes and I want you to finish these next 5 and give them a real short assignment and then check in with them later on. Okay. So I'm kind of checking in on them. And then by this point, group C, now they're in part 4. And that's when I'm going to spend a lot of time with them, giving them that initial lesson. And now it's starting to get exciting for them. I'm giving them some individual attention, and they really need a lot of help here. And then you can see I'm bouncing back and forth. So now I'm giving a longer lesson to group 3, and then lesson 3 for group B. And then I keep going back and forth here. Now, when I look at this and I make this design, notice how group A has only gone through 2 things, okay? But that's okay, because those are the 2 most important things, and they're the most fundamental, and I really want them to know it really well, and I'm able to give them the time to do that. And so when I'm planning out my entire unit or my lesson work for the day or the weeks, what I'm looking at is I'm saying, how long will those kids need to get through the minimum that I really would feel comfortable with them doing? So if they just knew 1 and 2 really, really well, I'd be happy. And I think that's going to take about 3 weeks for them to get through that. So I'm going to make my whole unit 3 weeks. That gives them enough time to do the minimum. Therefore, I'm not leaving anybody behind. Okay. In the same amount of time, though, I have enough work so that group C is going to be properly challenged and they can actually get through all this work here. Now, if you also notice the spacing here, that for the first um, group, the first topic was really long, but two's a little bit shorter. And it should be a little bit shorter because if they understand these fundamental concepts of solving simple equations well, then the next step should just be a variation on the first step. And therefore, they should be able to go through it a little bit quicker. That's generally the goal. But look what's happening with Group C. It's kind of the opposite. In the beginning, they're able to go through things very quickly, but as things get more complex, they're going to need to spend more time. And for the most complex things, this could be like a really in-depth project, something that's extremely challenging. Sometimes I've said to kids, okay, we're going to do, they might get through this first stuff really fast, and so okay, we're going to do like a pre-calc lesson, and we're going to do a whole unit on, I don't know, like if it's a different topic like matrices or something they've never seen before, something brand new, but they have time to do something really special, really in depth. And they're going to spend more of their time with the more advanced work. Again, whether that's through a project or through some independent study, or just the work that I'm offering them. And then for this middle group, they're kind of getting where they need to get to as well. They're getting some advanced work. And again, this is very simplified. It might not be that every kid is in one of these three categories. Some kids might finish 4, some kids might finish 3, some might just get started on 5. It's kind of all mixed in there. But this is kind of the idea of the flow of the classroom, and it's really more about giving the students independent work that they can do that's at their challenge level, allowing them to work long enough on each of the topics that they feel comfortable and they really have a good understanding of those basics. And then to know that my time is going to be spent floating in between the groups, giving them help just as needed with their specific questions, and that's going to make things much more efficient for everybody in the classroom. So hopefully that's helpful. It's just different ways to think about designing a math classroom to make it work for all the students. I really enjoy this as well. I feel like it's, for me as a teacher, it's really exciting to work with kids one-on-one, really understand what their specific issues are and help diagnose those. I get a lot of variety, and I really see kids engaged throughout the work. I'm not mandating their pace. I'm not mandating exactly what they're working on. But they're always picking something that's at their appropriate challenge level, and it makes for a really interesting and dynamic classroom. So thank you for watching, and I hope this was helpful.